Optima Living operates high-quality seniors living communities across the lands now known as Alberta and British Columbia, traditional territories of diverse Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge that the lands where our communities stand and that our staff and residents call home are the traditional territories of many First Nations people, and we recognize their history. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends where you're watching this. My name is Shivji. I'm one of the principals at Optima Living, and I'm so excited today to be here with Cailey Massey, who is the founder and owner of Artfull Enrichment. And today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, including maximizing your golden years. So Cailey, let's jump right in. We want to talk about maximizing golden years. And interesting enough, you approach this from an art perspective. And I think sometimes people would think about this in many different ways. Yesterday, or very recently rather, Stats Canada came out with some interesting stats. One of them has been the fact that seniors over the age of 85 are the fastest growing group in the country. They are going to be marking huge milestones in many, many different ways. And one of the things that we think about is they sometimes label that as a crisis. And they label that, that aging as a crisis because they say, well, what's going to happen for the care of our elders? And what's interesting is, even from a latest census perspective, they've said, look, since 2016, the number of people aged 85 and older grew by 12%. More than twice of the overall population, that's 5.2%. But we come back to this idea they call it a crisis. I don't think it's a crisis. I think it's exciting. I think that if we help people maximize their golden years, it could be super exciting.
Yeah, and I think art can be an incredible way to do that, to take advantage of that time in your life where maybe you're going through a transitional phase in your life, maybe you've recently retired or not so recently retired, and you have some extra time on your hands to dabble in different skills and hobbies, and art could definitely be that for some people. And I think especially for people who have never tried or tried painting or drawing or anything under that kind of umbrella of art, later in life may be that it's never too late to try something new, and I think it's just a matter of kind of being open to that new opportunity of creating.
When you think a little bit about creativity, what are some of the health benefits of creativity?
Well, when people are creative, they're more likely to be open-minded to new experiences, because essentially being creative is thinking in innovative and new ways and translating a new idea into something experiential or tangible, and that can allow people to maybe learn about themselves, which is definitely has mental health benefits, because you can maybe become a bit more self-assured, improve your self-confidence, which has health benefits. You can also lower your stress levels. We find a lot of the times when we see people engaging in an art program, if they came to the program really stressed, and then they start painting and becoming really one with the moment and very present, all of the noise and the chaos that causes daily stress can just kind of evaporate, and you become so in tune with yourself that can be such an incredible benefit, again, to your mental health and down to your physical health as well. And there have been studies, one in particular by a gentleman named Dr. Gene Cohen, who found that there were a lot of health benefits, even going from improving people's fine motor skills, taking less medication when they participate in consistent art programming. And I think I could go on and on. There's so many benefits for people, but I think the main one that I at least feel and experience is being present and kind of removing the stress and the outside chaos and noise.
Tell me, as we finish up, but I know there's a couple of questions I really want to ask you, and one is like, what are some ways that that seniors can get creative? How can they? I mean, is that limited to art making? If people are at home, I mean, they're not at an Optima Living community. They may not live in Calgary, in Alberta, or British Columbia, or they may not live with us yet. But I always try to teach my kids to say "not yet," right? To kind of be more that resilience thinking. But what can people do to be creative and start to get creative, even if they're at home today watching this?
Just some quick examples. I think pick up a pen and paper and sketch something, the first thing that comes to your head. And worst comes to worst, you can always throw it in the garbage if you want to, but just try to do a stream of consciousness drawing. So you're just thinking and drawing and sketching and kind of blurting it all out through a drawing. I think collaging is a really accessible way to kind of tap into your creative side, but also it's not limited to art making. Cooking is a very creative outlet. You're kind of intuitively adding ingredients, and unless you're following a recipe, maybe it's a bit less intuitive, but cooking, gardening, arranging your furniture differently, or I don't know, painting something in your house. There's lots of different options. I think also talking about art. So look at a piece on the internet or something, look at an artwork and just sit with it and start to think about what your gut reactions are to that piece. And that's going to get your mind thinking in a creative way. So there's lots and lots of different avenues you can take.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that because one, I'm very open, but I'm not very artistic. So at least maybe I can still be considered creative. And so I'm looking forward to maybe spending some time with you in your Bob Ross style expertise, but maybe help me learn a little bit about painting as we go through. But I do really want to thank you for the time and such an interesting conversation. I mean, starting off with this whole crisis of elders, but really then coming back to saying, well, hold on a second, does it have to be a crisis? Why can't we help people live their best lives anyways? And isn't this a great opportunity to help a very large growing percent of the population get creative, reduce their stress levels, look at ways where they can have improved quality of life, look at ways where they can be open-minded and they can engage and we can destigmatize people, we can give them confidence, we can help them find things like even cooking and gardening that may be creative. And after all of that, we may actually allow me to be artistic. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and I think people will always surprise themselves, and I think they'll often amaze themselves with what they're capable of if they just try something a little different and new.
Well, listen, thanks so much for your time. I'm looking forward to our future engagements in many ways, but I do appreciate it, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, so today we are going to be doing a painting of monochromatic mountains. So get ready. So you're going to want to grab your largest brush and paint back to front. So that's usually the way that you want to do it. And we're just going to get a little bit of blue onto your brush.
Okay.
And dab a tiny bit of white on there as well. So we're going to start at the top and we're going to work our way down. And we're just going to paint a sky that softly fades.
You're a bit faster than I am.
To a slightly lighter color. So when you go back to your palette, dip into a bit more white. And that's going to create a gradient. And you only want to paint, I would say, about 2 or 3 inches down from there. The next thing that we're going to do, once you have about I don't know, 2-3 inches down from the top, we're going to put that big brush aside and grab a smaller brush and dip that small brush into a little bit of water. So scoop a bit of water onto that brush. And then we're going to gather some blue. just straight blue. The reason why we're doing that is we want it to flow nicely. So the water's gonna make it a little bit more fluid, and we're gonna do a bit of sketching with the brush.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take that brush and I'm going to paint a zigzag line, which is my mountain ridge line, that goes into the sky area, and paint a wobbly zigzag line. And the nice thing is whenever you're painting something from nature, it doesn't need to be perfect. You actually want to try to avoid the perfect
It's far from perfection, don't worry. Okay.
So again, we're just going to do a zigzag line slightly lower than that first one, and try not to do the exact same line as the previous one. Our brain will want to follow that same pattern. So you have to go against what your brain's telling you to do. And then we're going to do one more mountain ridge line. So this one can be a bit more jagged if you want to, or it can be more subtle peaks and valleys. It kind of looks like a heart monitor line, but you wouldn't want your heart monitor to look like this. We're going to make it look like there's the bottom of a mountain. So I'm just going to paint a diagonal line from one side down to the bottom.
And then the second one?
The second line's pretty much the same. You're just drawing a diagonal line from one side down to the bottom, or wherever it hits that other line. So that's all of the drawing that we're going to do, or drawing, quasi-drawing. And you're going to want to use a medium-sized brush, whatever you have on hand. It may be the same one that you were using, whatever works.
Okay.
Scoop a bit of white onto another area of your palette, a clean area. And we're going to take a bit of blue and mix it together to create a really light blue. And then we're going to add a tiny little drop of black, the tiniest, smallest amount of black, to gray the mountain color. Using that color, we're going to paint that farthest mountain range. So you can cover up your line that you drew or you painted. So essentially the reason why we are doing this mountain range light and blue is because when things recede in the distance in a landscape setting, they're usually quite light and they lack distinction and detail the farther they are away from you. So we're pushing these mountains into the distance essentially. All right, so for the next set of mountain ranges, or the mountain range, we're going to do the exact same thing, mix a new color. You don't even need to clean your brush, you're all right. But we want this one to be slightly darker. So you're going to use a bit more blue and a tad more black. And you can cover up that original line that you drew. And we're going to continue the exact same thing that we did with the other mountain ranges and just go darker with a darker shade of bluey, gray, black, and paint that next mountain range slightly darker and put it on really thickly to create some texture.
Just want to manage expectations. There's no expectation here, right? Like this is just
no expectation.
All right. This is not going to be displayed on my Instagram feed or something. Or... if you do it quick enough, like you can do a creative expression like break, you know, in your day type of thing. Like you could probably say, okay, let me just go take 10 minutes and go paint something and come back.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like reading or maybe doing like a puzzle or something for some people, because you really can just disconnect from everything else that's going on in the world and just focus on one task. And if you really think about it, your brain is making so many little minute decisions, like where to put the brush stroke and how much paint, and so you're strengthening your brain for sure.
Totally. I'm done.
So for the next one, we're gonna go darker this time. Dark. Surprise, surprise.
I don't know if I can go any darker. Like I almost went to a black last time. Okay, let's see.
So it'll almost be black, but it won't be black. It'll almost be black. And we're just gonna paint these two last sections. And you know what? A lot of people find it intimidating to have the white of the canvas, so it's almost like an accomplishment just to get rid of all the white.
Both sides, right?
Yep, both sides. Okay, let's add the tree in the foreground. I think it'll have a nice impact for a final step. To add the tree in the foreground, grab your smallest brush and we're just gonna mix a bit of water with black so it's a bit more liquidy. If yours is already pretty runny, you can just use it as is.
Yeah.
And then this is where it takes some guts. You just gotta place a vertical line anywhere on your canvas that goes right through the entire painting.
Okay.
All right, so that's gonna be the tree trunk. And then we're just going to add some branches by flicking outwards from the top and then working our way down. And the key with this is try not to make it too even or too perfect. If you're finding it's picking up some of the paint, just keep loading your brush up with black. And because it's black and it's this silhouetted tree, it's going to really punch it forward.
Except that mine looks like there's a bunch of crows that are hanging off a tree instead of branches. But that's
If you don't like the look of the kind of sparse looking tree, you can always fill it out almost like a Christmas tree. It's really depends on what you're going for.
I think I've hit my maximum branch allocation.
How's it going?
Yeah, okay. Okay. I mean, it doesn't look like yours, but I think I have a tree with branches.
Nice.
Or a stick with crows.
That is a very quick painting.
This is what it looks like.
Very nice. You know what? I love how light it is behind that first mountain range. It really looks like the sun's like rising or something. It's really nice. Really
I did like the
moody.
white part of the canvas there. Not that it was intentional, but now that it's there. Cailey, thanks so much for teaching me how to do this. I feel like even I have some artistic talent. So that's awesome. Thanks very much. And really appreciate your time and your natural love of this subject.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Mental ill health in later life is secondary only to physical ill health. The number of people with either depression or late life anxiety leads to a lot of psychological ill health in late life. You should make sure that you are treated fairly aggressively and early if you notice that your mood is low and that you are suffering from symptoms of depression. Likewise, if you find yourself excessively worried or concerned by small things and it's getting in the way of your daily life, then you should seek early treatment. There are many websites and advice lines available for mental health support. You should also seek the advice of your clinician. Stress, psychological stress, is a major cause of morbidity in later life. And you might say, well, what can I do about it? And there are various methods to deal with that in terms of talking therapies, things like cognitive behavioral therapy or treatment from a psychologist that can allow you to deal with what might be abnormal thoughts or things that are dwelling on you and causing your ill health. Later life comes with great change, major life events, the death of a partner or loved ones, moving house because of various reasons, through choice or necessity. All of these events have a toll on mental well-being. There's often a need to reframe and think about how you can maximize life in changed circumstances. This needs a reframing of motivation and a reassessment of quality of life. There's certainly evidence that people who maintain an upbeat outlook on life enjoy life more, have a better quality of life, and potentially live longer. This means that we need to think about being creative, developing new interests, or taking up interests which we might have rejected because of other reasons in earlier life. Different sources of educational or intellectual stimulation all support mental health and well-being in later life, as does social connectedness, interacting with other people, and seeking new and different pursuits. If you are concerned about your mental well-being, then you should certainly talk to your family physician as a first point of call. You should get an assessment and probably a diagnosis and then a treatment plan. For the most part, this might either involve non-drug therapies, such as cognitive behavioral therapy or various talking therapies, to allow you to deal with symptoms, to set small goals to improve your well-being, and to work through the problems that might be distressing you or causing you ill health. For some, drug therapies are needed, and antidepressants in later life are prescribed awfully commonly. You might need to cycle through several medications to find one which suits you. Undoubtedly, treatment for at least 6 months is needed, and often a small dose of medication in the longer term is required to prevent relapse.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of OLTV. If you liked what you saw and you want to watch more, like this video and subscribe to the Optima Living channel right here on YouTube.